What's up, guys, and welcome back to Week of Entertainment. So, Chris Mangena, the forensic expert, actually testified in court that he did not find any cartridges inside the Kumalo house, and the reason for that it was because there was a struggle over the firearm, and because of that struggle over the firearm, those empty cartridges were actually launched inside the chamber of the firearm. This is what Chris Mangena said.
It is your evidence, Lieutenant Colonel, that at the scene you could not find any empty cartridges. Is that correct?
That's correct, my lord. Cartridge cases were not found at the scene.
One of the scenarios, or two of the scenarios that you gave, Lieutenant Colonel, is that it could be that when the shot was fired, as there was a struggle over the firearm, so it could not eject cartridges. So the empty cartridge would be launched in the chamber of the firearm. Is that correct?
That's correct, my lord. When a shot is fired, as I have explained, every single shot fired, the slide moves back to eject the fired cartridges. So for every shot, there will be this movement. So in the instance where a shot is fired, someone is holding the firearm, it disturbs the cycling of this. So the fired cartridges will not be ejected, will stuck inside the chamber of the firearm.
You also testified, Lieutenant Colonel, that from the physical evidence at the crime scene, the first shot was the one that was fired 90 degrees to the floor.
That's correct, ma'am.
Is it correct that based on what you have been saying, that when that shot is fired, the 9mm pistol, that is the exhibit, it will eject cartridges, and the possibility of cartridges falling onto the floor cannot be ruled out? You confirm that?
That's correct, ma'am.
So the possibility of the scene being contaminated, can you rule it out in the sense that somebody may interfere with the scene and take that empty cartridge which is on the floor in the kitchen?
I cannot rule out that possibility, ma'am.
So here is the challenge with Chris Mangena's testimony that there was a scuffle or a physical tussle over that firearm that caused these cartridges not to be released onto the scene. The challenge is that the testimonies of the eyewitnesses who were inside the house, they do not confirm that struggle over the firearm, because Zandile Kumalo was in the bathroom, Longwetwala rain outside, Kilikumalo was watching over a distance. And Tumilo Madlala, we all know he had these clashes and couldn't walk properly at that time. And as for Senzo Meyiwa himself, we all know that he was trying to protect Kilikumalo. So looking at the witnesses and what happened from the perspective of the witnesses, it does not support the evidence of Chris Mangena. So this is a big problem for Chris Mangena right here. Another major big problem here that I'm seeing with Chris Mangena's testimony, it is this explanation of these cartridges being launched into the chamber of the firearm. This is just speculation, and Chris Mangena himself, he does not have evidence to support this speculation that he is giving, because he is more of like trying to justify why there were no cartridges found on the scene. So he is ending up coming up with all of these speculations, but you are in court. That's the challenge now, and you have to provide concrete evidence instead of bringing your own speculations and ideas as to why this might have happened this way. That is the purpose of a forensic investigator. It is to investigate and bring concrete evidence instead of bringing speculations in court. It just doesn't work like that. So despite all of that, Chris Mangena also went on to testify that the first shot also was shot 90 degrees towards the floor, and the bullet that came out, it hit the floor and actually shattered. The fortunate part for Chris Mangena on this one is that after research, he is actually justified in saying that he gets support from Kelly Kumalo, who testified that yes, she was hit by these bullet fragments. So Kelly Kumalo, who was like in the vicinity of that scene, testified that she was hit by these bullet fragments. And during the investigations, the investigators actually found these bullet fragments inside that Kumalo house. So on this part, Chris Mangena got it correct on this one to say that they were bullet fragments. However, it's not all roses for Chris Mangena, because one of the challenges that Chris Mangena is also facing, these are testimony gaps and inconsistencies. For example, there were instances where parts of Mangena's testimony were missing from official records. Can you imagine that you testify something in court, but it get found out that it's actually missing from the official records? That actually leads to concerns on its own about the completeness and accuracy of his statements. How can you believe someone like that? Obviously, in a situation like this, the court itself, it shouldn't like rely on Mangena's testimony because of those inconsistencies. But then again, you never know, somebody can like forget or just miss writing something in the official records. So the defense now, with its like completeness in doing their job, they actually went for alternative like ballistic analysis. You know, Chris Mangena is a ballistic expert. He did his own test and found his own evidence. The defense, they went for their own ballistic analysis with their own expert, and what they actually found is that they identified match markings between the test bullet and the one found at the crime scene. And there were actually disparities about this analysis between what was found by Mangena and what was found by this ballistic expert from the defense team. So on the line here, these experts are trying to find out that this bullet that was found on the crime scene, is it really linked to the firearm that was found with Mthobisi Mncube? So overall, what should the court do with regards to Mangena's testimony? So Mangena's testimony is very, very important, but what should not be done is to view it as a standalone piece of evidence. Though it is offering like a good interpretation of the scene, there are also other aspects of his testimony that are also questionable. So Mangena's testimony should just be seen as part of the broader aspect, and it must be corroborated with other independent forensic findings, additional witness testimonies, and careful review of all the evidence handling, because you know Chris Mangena has all of these challenges with reviewing a gun which was inside a bag which was not sealed. So it must be seen in a broader perspective. That way it could help the court very, very much, because entirely relying on Mangena, I would say it's very, very dangerous. However, we cannot disregard his work, because he is also one of the few people who went to the Kumalo house on 27 October 2014. So everything should be brought together and carefully reviewed. So tell me what you think in the comment section, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.